We also have to ensure that our application data is encrypted. We've already are aware, I think almost everyone in a course like this should be aware of encryption and why we use it and why it's important. As far as the cloud goes, one of the first things we have to address is encryption for the data at rest in the cloud. We have to understand how applications data is going to be encrypted. We've talked about these different methods for storing data in the cloud, such as using hard disks that are managed by the cloud service provider or SSDs or solid state disks, also using SANs and NASs and things like that, as well as object storage. Some of these things may be encrypted by the cloud service provider, and some things we have to encrypt at the application level. So it's important to understand whether or not our applications need to handle that encryption for data at rest, or if that's handled for us by the cloud service provider or configured by us. We also have to understand how data is going to be encrypted in transit. So while it traverses not only our network, but also the cloud service provider's network and the internet in general. So we have to understand, does our application have to handle that encryption, or are there other mechanisms that will be in place to handle that encryption? So a common question that somebody who's handling security might ask with moving something to the cloud is the data going to be encrypted while it's in transit, right? So certain applications may be using non-standard port numbers. A good question is this encrypted data? Is it encrypted while it's in transit? And a vendor or an application service provider might tell you that it's not. And the next question is, okay, how are we going to make this encrypted? Do we have to use VPNs? Do we have to make changes to the application? Again, a lot of these applications may have been built to run within infrastructure and not within a cloud-based infrastructure. So they may not handle that encryption for the data in transit. So we want to make sure that we have that covered as well. And then another option that we have, and we've talked about this option before, is applications may have the capability, or you may be able to modify applications to use data masking or obfuscation. And we talked about that before. Data masking, to refresh your memory, is when we cover up the data. So we change the data to junk, basically. So for example, if you're storing credit card numbers in your database, when that information is transferred to the cloud or viewable on the cloud, you may obfuscate or mask that data. So masking would be where you simply put something else in as a placeholder that's completely meaningless, or obfuscate it. You can also use tokenization. So you put a placeholder in to reference the real records that are in your own database. So a couple different options we have with encryption. And again, when we're deploying applications to the cloud, we have to understand these three areas of encryption. How are we encrypting this data to ensure the confidentiality and the integrity of that data?